Welcome to our new podcast, In the Hunt, powered by Game Force.
Part 2 of coaching for coaches.
Mark, you have any nuggets out there?
On that topic or any other topic?
Just coaching in general.
Yeah, I mean, especially higher level golf. I really only teach competitive golfers unless I'm doing a clinic at a club or something, and it probably applies equally to both of them. But from the putting perspective, the higher the level the player gets, the less successful you're ever going to be at changing their mechanics. And what do putting coaches and coaches tend to do first thing? Well, let's change your mechanics. You're too inside. You're too this. You're too that. Good luck. By the time that you get to that level, it is so hard to fundamentally change the way they move and the way they move the putter. You can change your setups a little bit, but the way they move, it's a long, slow, a lot of the time ineffective process. But that's what 95% of putting coaches do. They get on the same putt lab. They go, your mechanics, your angles are wrong here. We need them different here. And your aim is there. And it gets the player so focused on mechanics that usually their performance and their speed goes to crap the minute you do that. If you want to make someone's speed really crappy, the easiest way to do it in the world is get them thinking about their face at impact. Their speed will go, they won't get the ball within 4 feet of the hole the second you get them thinking about their face, guarantee you. And I've run many tests on this and it works every single time. So, there are times when there are mechanical issues. Yeah, absolutely. No question. But changing that is a very difficult process for an experienced player in my experience for putting.
I would say to all you weekend warriors out there, Mark's just giving you a great tip on how to beat your buddies. Just tell them that what did you say, Mark? Just tell them their mechanics in the putting green before they go out and play look awful.
Yeah. All you got to do is say something like, oh, you're hooking your putter a little bit, or you're a little open.
Yeah.
Or just get them thinking about their face of their putter. And I'm telling you, they will make nothing.
How do you square your face so well?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I do.
Always brought it back like Nicholas and brought it through like Hogan. That's really interesting.
I do this little test that y'all have probably both seen where you get two alignment rods and you lay them next to each other facing the hole and put the ball on it and get the player to roll it down the alignment rods. And what you tell them is say, okay, you go 12, 15 feet and say, okay, these are lined up straight at the hole, but you've got to have your face dead square at impact or they're going to jump off the rails. What do? They leave it 7 feet short. They start guiding it as best they can, and the ball goes nowhere. Nobody hits it hard. Nobody hits it hole high. They always leave it 5, 6, 7 feet short. Every single player.
But it rolls straight down.
So worked up about being perfect with their face angle, and their speed control just evaporates.
That's funny. That's kind of mean.
I'm telling you, I've done that with 50 people, and all 50 of them had the same result.
Human brain's not really good at it focuses in on one area really well, but it does forget about a lot of other pieces.
It generally is not good at focusing on speed control and face angle. I'm telling you right now, it's one or the other. You try to do both when you're putting.
Yeah,
forget it.
I mean, yeah, I don't think either should be conscious when you're playing competitively.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. So training wise, if you're training somebody constantly about mechanics, 90% is mechanics. Guess what they're going to be doing? 90% mechanics when they're trying to play a tournament. So in my opinion, I do some mechanics and maybe some technical work first for 10 or 15 minutes. And the rest of the lesson has got to be performance and speed.
Yeah.
Process, fundamentals, just is everything clean? Are you hitting good speed? A lot of speed work. That way their brain, the vast majority of the time, their brain is not stuck on mechanics. Which maybe is also why they never get better mechanically.
Right, but they might need to, Mark, is the key. If they're hitting the parameters relative to the standard they play, even if there's something off mechanically, based on perfection as whatever tells us, that's not relevant. They're hitting your numbers.
Yeah, they hit the numbers. And I always tell players, I don't care how you do it, hit your numbers, and I'm never going to bring it up. If you're hitting your numbers, we're not going to talk about anything other than hitting your numbers or trying to improve those a little bit, but we're not going to go, well, your rise angle is 1 degree too much lofted impact, or, you aim a half degree left. Let's try to clean that up. No chance. No freaking chance.
So you're saying performance rules?
Yeah. Back to that. I gave a lesson last week to a player who was using the line on her ball, but couldn't line the ball up left every time. So every time she put the line down, it was left. Then she put her putter down and had to push it or hit a good putt and miss left. So she lined up her ball perfectly with no line. So I was like, you play a lot, you make a lot more putts with no line. She's like, yeah, but I have to use the line. I'm like, well, no, you don't. You might have been told that in your life over and over, but you don't have to. You actually play better without it. And the end result, I said, okay, let's try to fix it so that you line up your line straight if that's where you feel like you need to be. I go, but ultimately it's your decision. I go, I'll give you options. I'll tell you which one I think works better, but your call. I don't care. I'm out here having fun trying to help you. If you want to use the line, fine with me. And it took a load of pressure off her. And luckily we ended up finding a way that she actually lined her line up very well. The way she was doing it was leading it to be left. And we actually did fix it, which sometimes you can, sometimes you can't. But it was just the whole, listen, you've got a couple options, ideally, whichever one works better for you. And the two biggest drawbacks on the two biggest mental blocks for her were A, I've been told I have to use the line, and B, everybody else uses the line and I don't want to stand out as the one person who doesn't. The junior golfer. And I was like, well, you can stand out as making a lot more putts than them, or you can, without a line, or you can fit right in with a line and make as few as they do, like your call. And I get this. I know it's a little bit facetious, but peer pressure is a big thing for junior golfers and for college golfers, and believe it or not, for a lot of pro golfers. It's different than everybody else. Am I willing to do that? And some people, the answer is a flat no.
So I think, Mark, you've touched on something important there, and just going back to coaches momentarily. If you want people to improve, they must have a sense of autonomy. It's one of the basic psychological needs. So they have to feel they have choice.
Yeah.
Okay. The second one is they have to have relatedness. They have to feel that they can relate to the person who's given them the choice, which you, or in this case, they can do as a great coach. And then the third thing is competency. I trust that you can make a good decision. I can relate to the decisions you're currently making. And then I know you're competent enough to make the right decision. If I give you a suite of choices, you will find the right answer. That player will feel highly empowered versus a player being told, you have to use the line, you have to use the line, you have to use the line, you have to use the line. Well, no, you don't have to use the line. What our job is to do is help you find what works for you. And we might have to go through, this is the other thing about coaching, I think, that people don't realize. We don't know the answers and we don't know what's going to work until it works. So we have to give people choice and many different options, and then something will click and we go, hey, this works well for you.
Yeah.
But our next coaching session, the very same answer could be awful. So coaching, for those of us who are honest enough to say it, is largely guesswork, and we're trying things until we find something that works and sticks.
Yeah, there's definitely some experimentation going on there. And a lot of people process information differently, and what one person loves, another person might destroy them, just the way they think about it, at least on the putting side.
Yeah. Brian,
I know you've seen a lot of people.
Brian, you've been this quiet for this long is very disconcerting for Mark and I.
I know, it's making me uncomfortable.
We can't relate to this, and we're worried about your competency, so come on, get in here.
I'm doing quite well here. I was actually reading a magazine. No, I'm kidding. I was reading a golf magazine, and it tells me right here to break 80, I have to do this. You guys are wrong. It's telling me exactly what I have to do.
You're wrong again.
Swinging like Justin Thomas.
Yeah.
No,
easy enough, right?
Even though you're built like Charles Barkley, you got to swing it like Justin Thomas.
That's right. Charles Barkley, I wish. that would be a step up. No, it goes back to kind of the coaching and the player. And I had a wonderful conversation with a college coach a couple weeks back, and it just, it just floors me on, just disinformation and that's out there. And, and they're like, well, we're trying to get our players better with wedges. Awesome. Okay. So how do you do it? Like, what does your team do? Walk me through it. And they're like, well, we're not really good between certain distances. And I go, well, let me guess, between 50 and 80 yards, a lot of players on your team really struggle. And she's like, yes. I go, well, disproportionately every golfer out there struggles at some distance in their wedge play. And they're like, really? I was like, yes, not everybody hits every number that you're supposed to. I said, so what you need to do is design a practice that if the player and you feel it's their best interest to get better in these zones, let's create a plan to get them better, or let's create just as good a plan and say, let's not end up there. We have the ability to not hit it between 50 and 80 yards on layups. We can play it further back, or we can get closer to the green. So to me, a lot of their practice was everyone go hit the same wedge, go do this. And I was like, is that truly helping your player? Is it easy for me to, as a coach, to make a training plan? Yes. But is that helping each individual player achieve what they need to do? Probably not. So again, we just kind of walked through players and said, what players, again, are you inside of Game Forge? Are you looking at the approach data? Are you starting to see where their strengths and weaknesses are? How often do they have that shot? I think 2019, I think it was 2019, Mark, when Tiger Woods only had like 9 shots between 60 or 50 and 70 yards or 80 yards. And he didn't hit a single shot within 20 feet, which was amazing, right? One of the best players in the world. But he knew, for whatever reason, during that time, it was funny. That's the year he won the Masters, right? 2019?
Yeah, 2019, yeah.
And I was watching the replay the other day during the rain. They were actually showing the old Masters. And on the final day, he had 2 wedge shots inside of that 50 to kind of 80 yard, and he did not hit it inside of 20 feet. Now, granted,
that wasn't one on 18. So I remember watching that.
Yeah. And then there was one on there was another one of the par 5s, I think. It was really funny. Now it is Augusta. Augusta puts you in really bad spots. You hit really good shots and you get in 20 feet from the hole in a hurry. I get that, but it was fascinating. So again, as I'm looking at this coach, it's like, don't coach to what you think the player should do. Coach to the fact that this is what the player does well, and then how can we build upon that? And if there is a deficiency, let's come up with a good plan to kind of get you to address that and move past that. But again, I think a lot of times collegiately, and my number one drawback was with most coaches is this is the way I learned. I was a college player. I played mini tours. I played professionally. This is what I did. Awesome. Doesn't mean that it's going to work for the 10 players in front of us. So again, I think it's just trying to figure out individually how I can get each player to maximize training, maximize their game, and get them to reach their goal. And I think, like I said, a lot of times that's, again, goes back to, I have to use the line. I have to do. You don't have to. You have to figure out what works for you and gets you to what you want to be. And again, it's just fascinating that the more you understand performance, inside of Game Forge, we say there's some certain standards you have to do to get to a certain level. But inside of those standards, there's a lot of flexibility. If there's a certain zone you're not good at, stay away from it. If if I overperform putting inside of 20 feet, kind of like a Justin Thomas, like I overperform there and I underperform outside of 20 feet, it's okay. You can still be world's number 3 or whatever he is. Like, you can win the PGA. That's not a problem. So again, it's just starting to understand, maximize what the players do well, put them in those situations, and then again, clean things up as you go. But again, design for the player, not for, whatever you believe or what you did. How was that, Garrett?
Wasn't 2 sentences.
I think he's on mute.
He is on mute.
Garrett's talking and he's
unmute yourself, G.
This is what it feels like when I listen to Brian. It's just, but with me, there's no noise.
That was so enlightening, Gareth. You should have listened to that one.
Brian, I think I know what you're saying there. And I think it's critical that the coach and the player understand what makes a player tick, what is the bedrock of their performances, or what are the pieces that are the bedrock of their performances. And we shouldn't be putting people in boxes. You don't need 8 hours of sleep. Some kids might need 10 hours sleep. Some kids might operate really well off 5. Some kids should never touch Red Bull. Others might be okay in some Red Bull. And that to me is that's I think coaches don't talk enough to understand what's happening off the golf course at times to assist them in bringing performance on the golf course, or give the kid the performance options on the golf course to get them to the performance levels that they all desire. In terms of technical stuff, right, look, to both your points, nobody's ever done it perfectly, but lots of people have been very successful doing it in the manner that works for them. And you have to own what works for you and not give a shit about anybody else. That's really what it gets down to. I don't care. Like, we can't all have legs and glutes like Joel Ram, but Justin Thomas hits us pretty much as far as him, right? So there's different ways. There's so many different ways of getting this done. Yes, there are constants within, certain data and impact and blah, 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 but they're all finding a multitude of ways of getting there that we should acknowledge as coaches and say, there's nothing here set in stone. bar. You should be tracking performance. You should be looking for, is this working or is this not? And I think that's a key question that's not been asked enough. If we watch some coaching relationships, oh, their stroke is better. Yes, but they hold less putts. So I'm sorry.
We see that all the time. We see that all the time in putting, don't we?
We hear this crap. Oh, he strokes it better. Yes, but he's now putting worse in the arena, which is the very reason he engaged with you, than he was before he ever met you.
Yeah, I can think of a former world number one whose coach said that.
I won't ask, Mark. I won't ask.
You don't need to ask because you know who I'm talking about.
I know what I want to ask. So yeah, I think this idea of, we're being sold perfection, we're being sold technological perfection and training to numbers. Here's the deal, coaches. If it helps them and makes them better, then it works. And if you can substantiate that, not through TrackMan, not through Capto, not through SAM, not through whatever other technological instrument you're using, but through performance improvements, you're either helping them get better in competitive situations or you're not. That's what you have to be checking.
And if you don't have stats, you don't know.
Well, you're guessing.
Yeah.
And you're going to guess in your own favor at that point in time because you don't want to think you're not helping.
That is true. I think, Gareth, you kind of nailed it too. I always say inside of coaching, there's a piece that nobody ever thinks about. I call it the golfer's life. Like helping manage their life on the golf course, but leading into the golf course. To give a funny story, we had a player that we came to learn over time on the back nine. She always played not as well. She looked a little lazy, just kind of was. And so we started asking questions one day, and this kid drinks caffeine nonstop all day, goes to golf courses and tries to be healthy. Like everyone else on the team is eating really healthy. So they don't want to drink caffeine. They don't want to do everything that is them. Right. So literally we went to the nutritionalist to make sure we weren't screwing this player up. But we started to do it before the nutritionalist. The nutritionalist gave a check off. At the turn, we gave her a mini Coke, what is it? The little 6-ounce little can. And that was just enough sugar and just enough caffeine boost that would kind of keep her, she'd drink her coffee again in the morning, do what she does. And then we'd have to give her that little bit of boost in the afternoon to get her to kind of, she needed that caffeine because she was having withdrawals. So the funny part is if, as a coach, if you don't know them and you don't see what they do day to day and understand who they are, what their relationships are outside of the golf course, his mom being hard on him, his boyfriend, dating another girl on the tour, whatever that is. Like, if you don't understand those relationships and what's happening, again, to make that golfer happy, goes back to making them emotionally happy. You've got to help them navigate. And again, I'm not a psychologist, but to be that voice, to listen to them complain or whatever, and maybe not try to fix their personal life, but listen and kind of give them some help. But to me, that is a huge factor. And I think it's goes back to fundamentals. Be who you are at a golf venue. If you smoke cigarettes like John Daly and drink bourbon, smoke cigarettes and drink bourbon. That's what you do.
That's just jump in here, folks, and say, please drink and smoke responsibly. I have nothing to do with those two comments.
But if you really think about it, think of the 80s golf. Like literally they were having cigarettes sitting on the tee box. Like they're sitting them on the little tee markers, but that's,
and now it's bananas.
Now it's HGH or whatever is over in there, a little syringe needle. But to me, again, it's just, again, to go back to what we talked about, coaching is more than golf. Coaching is that dialogue back and forth, helping the player on the golf course, off the golf course, being that kind of positive influence to help them be emotionally ready to go. And we had a bunch of stories like that in college. It was like, boyfriends breaking up with them, telling them they're coming to wash, and then they don't. Like, trying to manage all that was fun in itself. So again, to be a true coach, to be part of their life is helping them manage, when they win, what does that mean? Some players have questioned, I won this major. That's it. and a good coach is going to be there and help them fill the gaps, right? Don't be
like, good coach will drink the champagne out of the trophy and go, hey, buddy, we did it.
but
and then they claim that for the rest of their life.
Correct. That's right. And you're going to make me one of these little jugs? I don't know. I'm just saying. But no, it's to me, coaching is more than the X and O's. Coaching is managing, I always say it's equipment, it's technique, it's skill, it's data, it's all of that. It's physical, it's nutrition, it's sports, it's all of that. But there's a life to them and understanding their life, and where, a kid that's grown up on public courses is going to play a little different. A kid that's played on nothing but country club courses their whole life, their game is set up a little different, and you've got to understand and be able to help manage them under different circumstances. What does this mean? I believe in this, or I play like this, and you're going to a situation where that doesn't match. What can I do to help them, succeed on, I'm used to playing 9s, 8s and 9s, and I'm playing 15s. Like, is there a strategy that I can do to control speed? And again, that's just knowing that you just can't look at them and go, you can't put on fast screen, or, like a lot of coaches, you sleep with your putter tonight. No, that's not an answer. That's not the answer. That's just weird. But I've heard that from many players.
I've heard it too. My
senior year of college, I slept with my putter the entire year. And I'm like, how'd that work out for you? And do you like skinny people? I don't know. But again, it's that concept of, helping them achieve more than just, the perfect, hate to say this, track man, just because, it's the Coca-Cola of the golf industry, or a sand putt number or what have you. So again, helping manage them, not just, performance per se, certain devices or certain golf magazines or certain commentators or so many of them. How was that, Gareth?
I'm going to try and sum that up. I'm actually going to try and sum that up in one sentence.
Yes.
Okay.
I really am. So
it better be one sentence.
Stop seeing the golfer and start seeing the person.
Yeah, maybe.
You're teaching a person. You're not teaching a golfer. They just happen to play golf.
Maybe.
I like that.
Maybe.
You're welcome.
He's not going to give you that, but I like it.
And maybe.
No, he won't give it to me. No, I know he won't give it to me because he needs to talk for 50 more minutes, but I'm done here.
I saw Mark over there going like this. Lengthen it out. We need to lengthen it out.
Actually, we got to shorten it up because I got to leave.
All right. Well, let's finish it up then.
Y'all can keep talking if you want.
No, I'm doing too much listening here, Mark.
Same.
Funny. So why did we invite the Irish guy?
Brian, can I ask you for a brief summation? If you could keep it to half an hour, that'd be great.
Sure. What do you want to know on?
Top tip for coaches from a coach to a coach.
Coach to a coach. In one sentence. Learn as much as you can from others and be careful in application.
Jesus Yoda.
Blah, blah, blah.
Jesus Yoda. Mark, can you say something in English for those who listen?
Yeah.
What's wrong with that?
I would say keep it as simple as possible. Get the fundamentals as sound as possible before you worry about all the fancy stuff, and pay a lot of attention to their reaction to what you're telling them. So body language, mental emotional reaction is what you're saying.
That was not one sentence.
There was 3 commas in it, but that was one period.
That was a paragraph.
And a semicolon and
a couple of semicolons also, but it was one.
All right. Super wise Irishman. Let's hear it.
What can I say? It's easy to make things hard. It's hard to make things easy.
Boom.
Just back to what Mark said. Let's get it as simple as we can. Let's get it as clear as we can. Let's walk onto that golf course as a player and as a coach who's assisting that player with minimal conscious thought. Let's just go play golf. Take care of it in the background. I will say this. Look, we're all on this platform for a reason. You've got to know your data. We'll all keep going back to this. If you know your data, you're training correctly. If you're training correctly, you are already empowered. go play golf.
Love it. So if you're not on Game Forge, go sign up.
Immediately.
Give you the information you need. MyGameForge.com.
All right, gentlemen. We'll go ahead and wrap it up. Mark has, I think he's had a tanning appointment today.
Tanning appointment. I cover from head to toe every day here in the sun. I've had enough sun.
Spray tan today.
Go get yourself a pair of OG smugglers.
Yeah, maybe I'll do that.
And scare the
I'll use that for Halloween Horde Nights.
Alligators, whatever you all have.
Yeah, that'll be my Halloween Horde Night outfit for October.
That would be something to behold. All right, gentlemen.
Brian, I think it would be remiss of us not to plug the fact there will be a European tour happening. You're coming over in April. Mark and I will be here available August. So,
yes.
So 4th, 5th, and 6th of August.
Yeah, April 2023. I got it written down.
So we're going to release that in the next 48 hours, let's say.
Yep.
Perfect. All right. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us. Thank everyone for listening to this wonderful, wonderful podcast. Sorry, Gareth was using some foreign language that you'll really have to slow down and go to Google Translate. But if you do spend the time to do that, you'll learn something new. Bungie smugglers or... So thank you again, everybody. And we look forward to bringing you more information in the future. Make sure you go to mygameforge.com, videos.mygameforge.com to join Fuel, and all the other great hub stuff we're bringing you in the not so distant future. So thank you again, and we look forward to talking to you in the future. Bye-bye.
Thank you, folks.
Thank you.
This has been a Fuel production.